Good evening, students. Welcome to Sankalp learning classes. Yes, today session we are discussing some important multiple choice questions that is related to the human reproduction chapter. So I hope all are ready to listen the class. Please keep your books and pen. Get ready for the class. If you have any doubts during the class, feel free to ask. Okay. Yes, let us start this session. Yes, let us start with the first question. Which of the following organs serve as the primary reproductive organs in human males and females respectively? Testes in males and ureter in females, urethra in males and ovary in females, testes in males and ovary in females, none of this. Here, which of the organs which serve as a primary reproductive organs which produces the sperms and ovum, right? So here the correct answer testis is the correct one, but ureter, so that is not a primary reproductive organ. Urethra, so that is the wrong one, but ovary is the primary reproductive organ. So here testis and the ovary. Option C, so that is testis and ovaries are the male testis and female ovary are the primary reproductive organs. Yes. So third option is the correct one. We'll move to the next question. Out of the following glands mentioned below, select one of which is not a male accessory reproductive gland. So here, bulbourethral gland, so that is present in the male reproductive system, and prostate gland, that is also present in the male reproductive system, seminal vesicles, that is also present in the male reproductive system, but urinary bladder, that is not the, so that is not the reproductive gland, right? So here remaining three are the reproductive glands, but here urinary bladder, that is not the correct answer, right? Which is not a male accessory reproductive gland. Option D. Next question. Which of the following is an accessory component of the female reproduction system or female reproductive system? Here, accessory component, pudendum, vulva, mammary gland, and the vagina. So, vagina. So, which one is the correct answer? So, that is the accessory component. Here, option 3, that is the mammary gland. The mammary gland which do not have the functional connection between the female reproductive system, but that is the part of the female that is considered as the female reproductive system part, because so that produces the milk that nourishes the newborn baby. So here the correct option, that is the mammary gland. Next question. In females, certain developmental changes occur during the pregnancy due to the release of the hormones. Which hormone is responsible for the enlargement of the breast during the pregnancy? Here, oxytocin, progesterone, estrogen, both 1 and 2. Here, oxytocin, that is released by fully developed baby, and so that is released by the pituitary, right? So, and it is helpful for the parturition process, not for the enlargement of the breast during the pregnancy. Progesterone, that helps to maintain the pregnancy. So here correct option, that is the estrogen. Option 3, estrogen is the correct answer. Estrogen, that is helpful for the enlargement of the breast during the pregnancy. Option estrogen is the correct one. Next question. The pregnancy test is based on the detection of LH, that is luteinizing hormone, HCG, human chorionic gonadotropin, progesterone, and the estrogen. So here the pregnancy test is based on the HCG, human chorionic gonadotropin. Yes, so that is the hormone that is produced by the placenta. So LH, progesterone, and estrogen, that is also, that is these hormones that is present in the normal female body also, but HCG is not present in the normal female, but the pregnant female only contain this human chorionic gonadotropin hormone. So option B is the correct answer. Next question. Placenta does not secrete human chorionic gonadotropin, human placental lactogen, progesterone, prolactin. Here, this HCG secreted by the placenta and HPL, that is also secreted by the placenta. Progesterone also secreted by the placenta, but the prolactin, so that is released by the pituitary. So that helps for the production of the milk. So that is released by the pituitary gland. So which of the following is not secreted by the placenta? That is option D, prolactin, that is not secreted by the placenta. Next question. What contains the vascular connection between the mother and the fetus? Mother and the fetus, placenta, amnion, chorionic villi, umbilical cord. So what contains the vascular connection between the mother and the fetus? Here umbilical cord, so that is the connection between the placenta and, that is the connection between the placenta and the fetus or embryo. So this is the wrong one. Chorionic villi, so that is the finger like projection that is present around the fetus, so that is around the placenta. And amnion, so that is also layer or the tissues that is present around the growing fetus that contain the fluid that is called as the amniotic fluid. So that is not the connection, that is the layer of tissues that is present around the fetus. So the correct answer, that is the placenta. So that contains the vascular connection between the mother and the fetus through umbilical cord. So the correct option, that is placenta. Next question. The hormone that reaches its highest level during the post-ovulatory phase. Option A, progesterone. Option B, estrogen. Option C, FSH. Option D, LH. So if you know the answer, just to comment the correct answer in the chat box. Okay. The hormone reaches highest post ovulatory phase. Post ovulatory phase means after the release of the secondary oocyte. LH, that is highest during the ovulation. So FSH and LSH, that is highest during the ovulation only. And estrogen, that is not produced after the post ovulatory phase. So the post ovulatory phase, the corpus luteum is formed, that is the ruptured Graafian follicle that develop into a corpus luteum, and the corpus luteum that produces the progesterone. So which helps the maintenance of the pregnancy. So here the progesterone levels that increases after the post ovulatory phase, that is option A is the correct one. Next one. What are the finger-like projection around the trophoblast called? Endometrium, placenta, chorionic villi, fetus. What it is called? What are the finger-like projections? So that is of trophoblast called endometrium. That is not the correct answer. Placenta is not a finger-like projection. Fetus, that is also wrong one. The correct option, that is the chorionic villi. The correct option, that is chorionic villi. Chorionic villi and uterine tissue fuse to form dash. Zygote, blastula, placenta, endometrium. Here, the chorionic villi and the uterine tissue, so they fuse to form the placenta. The correct option, that is placenta. Option C, placenta is the correct answer. Next question. Which of the following is not the function of the placenta? Here, the placenta, so that supply of the nutrients to the fetus, yes, that is the function of the placenta. Removal of excretory products from the fetus, yes, that is also function of the placenta. Supply of carbon dioxide to the fetus, carbon dioxide is not needed, no need to supply to the fetus though, so that is the wrong one. Supply of oxygen to the fetus, that is also correct one. So here, which of the following is not the function of the placenta? That is the supply of carbon dioxide to the fetus. Option C is the correct answer. Next question. Which hormone is produced by ovary only during the pregnancy? Progesterone, chorionic gonadotrophin, relaxin, placental lactose. Here, read the question properly. The hormone is produced by ovary. The hormone is produced by ovary only during the pregnancy. Progesterone, that is released by the corpus luteum, but not during the pregnancy. So that is the wrong one. Chorionic gonadotrophin, this is also not released by the ovary, that is released by the placenta. And placental lactogen, that is also released by the placenta, not by the ovary. So here the correct one, the relaxin, that is released during the later phase of the pregnancy, that is the relaxin. Option C is the correct one. Next question. In humans, the number of ova and sperms that would be produced from 100 secondary oocytes and 100 secondary spermatocytes during the gametogenesis is number that would be produced from the 100 secondary oocytes. 100 secondary oocytes. So that produces the 100 ova. 100 ova because only one ova is released from the one secondary oocyte. Then 100 secondary spermatocytes, right? Secondary spermatocytes means how many sperms they produce. So the primary spermatocytes, see here. So this is the primary spermatocytes that undergo the first meiotic division and form the secondary spermatocytes. And the secondary spermatocytes, they complete the meiotic division and form the 4 haploid sperms, right? Here, secondary spermatocytes, 100 secondary spermatocytes means here 100 are there. From 100, how many will produce? So each will produce 2, right? From one primary spermatocytes, 4 will produce, 4 sperms will produce. From one secondary spermatocytes, 2 will produce. So here the correct option, 100 ova and 200 sperms. The correct option, 100 ova and 200 sperms. Option C is the correct answer. Because here 100 secondary spermatocytes are given, not 100 primary spermatocytes. 100 primary spermatocytes means they produce 400 sperms. But here secondary spermatocytes are given, they produces double. Next question. Stem cells that are capable of giving rise to all the tissues and organs present in. These stem cells are present in cumulus ooporus of the Graafian follicle, lutein cells of the corpus luteum, tropoblast cells of the developing embryo, inner cell mass of the developing embryo. So here the stem cells which are capable to giving rise to all the tissues and the organs. Cumulus ooporus, that is the Graafian follicle, so it is not able to do that. Lutein cells of the corpus luteum, that is also not possible. Tropoblast cells of the developing embryo, so that is also not correct here. So just imagine. So this is the tropoblast layer. This is the tropoblast cell layer. Here inner cell mass is present. So this inner cell mass of embryo, developing embryo, so this has the ability to give rise to all the tissues and organs. The stem cells are present here, not in the tropoblast. So that is the inner mass cells. So option D is the correct one. Inner cell mass of the developing embryo. Which of the following group of hormone produced in women only during the pregnancy? Only during the pregnancy. See the option 4. Prolactin, that is produced during the pregnancy, that helps to the production of the milk. Progesterone, that is produced after the release of the secondary oocyte from the corpus luteum. So that is also produced the period other than the pregnancy period. This is produced during the pregnancy, but it is not produced. Cortisol, prolactin, thyroxine. Here, thyroxine, that is not only produced during the pregnancy, so that is also produced in other period also. Here estrogen and progesterone, that is not only produced during the pregnancy, so here HCG only during the pregnancy. Then here HCG, that is released by the placenta. So after during the pregnancy, HPL, so that is also only during the pregnancy, and relaxin, that is also only during the pregnancy. But remaining this estrogen, progesterone, that is also produced all the time, and here thyroxine, that is produced all the time, and here progesterone. The correct option, that is option 1, HCG, HPL and relaxin. Next question. Which of the following event does not occur after the implantation? Appearance of the germinal layers, formation of chorionic villi, secretion of the HCG, formation of the tropoblast and inner cell mass. See here, appearance of the germinal layers, that occurs after the implantation. So this is the correct one. Formation of the chorionic villi, that also occurs after the implantation. Secretion of HCG, that also occurs after the implantation. But formation of the tropoblast and the inner cell mass. Here, the morula, that is 8 to 16 blastomere stage, so that develop into blastula. Then the arrangement of the cells takes place, that is the tropoblast layer and the inner cell mass is produced like this. Then this will get attached to the uterus, right? So here the attachment of this takes place. The formation of the trophoblast layer and inner muscles, that will not possible, that will not occur after the implantation. Before the implantation only it will occur. So option D is the correct one, formation of trophoblast and inner cell mass. Next question. Statement 1. The process of release of sperms from the seminiferous tubule is called spermatogenesis. Statement 2. The spermatids are transformed into spermatozoa by the process called spermiogenesis. So here choose the correct option. Both the statement 1 and 2 are correct. Both statement 1 and 2 are incorrect. 1 is correct, 2 is incorrect, 1 is incorrect, 2 is correct. Here, the statement 1, the process of release of the sperms from the seminiferous tubule, that is called as spermatogenesis. So, it is not called as spermatogenesis. The total process of formation of the sperms is called as the spermatogenesis. Right? Here, this process is called as spermiation. Spermiation. The process of release of the sperms from the seminiferous tubule, that is called as the spermiation. So statement 1 is wrong. The spermatids are transformed into spermatozoa by the process called spermiogenesis. Yes, this is the correct statement. Spermatids that transfer into spermatozoa or sperms by the process called spermiogenesis. Yes, this is the correct one. This is first one is the spermiation. It should be spermiation. So option 1 is wrong, 2 is correct. So the statement 1 is incorrect, but the 2 is correct. Option D is the correct statement. Please note down this question. Next question. The function of myometrium layer present in the uterine wall is to undergo the cyclic changes during the menstrual cycle, give protection to the uterus, exhibit strong uterine contraction during the parturition, help in the implantation process. Here, the outermost layer, that is called as the perimetrium, and middle layer, that is myometrium, and the innermost layer, that is the endometrium. Right. So here, the endometrium that undergo the cyclical changes during the menstrual cycle. So that is endometrium. Then give protection to the uterus, that is not the function of the myometrium. Exhibit strong uterine contraction during the parturition. Yes, the myometrium that involves in the strong uterine contraction during the parturition. Help in the implantation process, that is also endometrium. Endometrium. So the correct option, that is option C, that is exhibit strong uterine contraction during the parturition. The dash hormone is secreted by ovary in the later phase of pregnancy. Later phase of pregnancy. So here androgens that is secreted by the male reproductive system. Estrogen that is not secreted only in the later phase of pregnancy. Progestogens that is also secreted by placenta during the pregnancy, but the relaxin so that is released by the ovary in the later phase of pregnancy. The correct option that is relaxin. But estrogen that is produced during the pregnancy, not only during the later phase. Okay, here later phase of pregnancy. So that is the relaxin. Option C, the relaxin is the correct answer. Next question. During pregnancy, the fetus develops limbs and digits. The fetus develops the limbs and digits after 3 weeks. No, not after the 3 weeks. After 8 weeks. After 6 weeks. After 9 weeks. So the correct answer that is after 8 weeks of the pregnancy. Means 8 weeks means after 2 months of the pregnancy it develops the limbs and digits. So option B the correct answer. Next question. In spermatogenesis, if FSH hormone is not secreted from the anterior pituitary gland, which stage is affected? Formation of the primary spermatocyte, formation of the spermatozoa, formation of the spermatid, formation of the secondary spermatocyte. So here, if the FSH is not secreted, FSH that stimulate the Sertoli cells, right? FSH that stimulate the Sertoli cells, the release of the spermatozoa that takes place with the help of the this hormone, right? FSH hormone. So the formation of the spermatozoa, FSH, so that helps to the formation of the spermatozoa. So this stage is affected. Option B. Next question. To produce 2000 sperms and 400 ova, how many spermatogonia and oogonia are required? To produce 2000 sperm and 400 ova. You know that from one primary oocyte, only one ova will released, right? So 400 ova means how many oogonial cells are required? 400 oogonial cells are required. So here 400 and in the option D 400. So you can eliminate A and C. And see here 2000 sperms means from one spermatogonial cell that will undergo the maturation and form the which undergo the meiotic division and form these four sperms. So from one, total four sperms are produced. Here we need 2000 sperms, means here 500 spermatogonia are required. So see here 250 is there. So eliminate the option D. 500 spermatogonia and 400 oogonia are required. So option B. Next question. The first movement of the fetus observed in first month, second month, third month, and the fifth month. The first movement of the fetus, the heartbeat is observed in the first month. Limbs and digits that develop by the end of the second month. So here, the first movement of the fetus that is observed in the fifth month. Option D, that is in the fifth month. Next question. What does the doctors inject to induce the parturition? FSH, oxytocin, progesterone, relaxin. So FSH that does not induce the parturition. Relaxin that will not induce the parturition. Progesterone also not induce the parturition, but oxytocin that induce the parturition. So which helps for the uterine contraction. So naturally it is released by the pituitary, but in case of the pituitary that is not able to release this oxytocin, then the doctors inject this, induce the parturition, that is the oxytocin. Option B is the correct one. During ovulation, entire Graafian follicle is released. Only secondary oocyte is released. Secondary oocyte along with zona pellucida is released. Secondary oocyte along with zona pellucida and corona radiata is released. During the ovulation, you know that secondary oocyte is released, not the Graafian follicle. From the Graafian follicle, secondary oocyte will be released. So option A is the wrong one. Only secondary oocyte is released. Say the C and D option, secondary oocyte with zona pellucida, secondary oocyte with zona pellucida and corona radiata. So here the secondary oocyte that is covered by a layer of cells. So that is zona pellucida and the corona radiata. So which covered by a layer of cells. So this is the secondary oocyte. So that is covered by the layer of cells. So option D, secondary oocytes along with the zona pellucida and the corona radiata is released. Option D is the correct answer. Next question. Ovulation usually occurs on which day in a 28-day cycle? 12th day, 13th, 14th, and the 15th. Ovulation usually occurs on the 14th day of the 28-day menstrual cycle? That is the option C is the correct answer. Next question. The layer of the uterine lining that is partially shed during the each monthly cycle, that is during the menstrual cycle, perimetrium, myometrium, endometrium, none of these. Here perimetrium, that is the outermost layer of the uterus, then myometrium, that is the middle layer, but the endometrium that sheds every monthly cycle, that is in the menstrual cycle. So option D, that is the endometrium. Next question. Absence of menstruation is known as menarche, amenorrhea, atresia, menopause. So menarche, that is the first menstrual cycle, and amenorrhea, that is occurred, so that is during the lactational amenorrhea, that is during the lactation, the menstruation cycle will be not there. So the here menopause, that is the absence of the menstrual cycle. Option D. So that is called as the menopause. Please note down the question. Sorry. Sorry for this question. Menarche, that is the initial, the first menstrual cycle. Amenorrhea, lactational amenorrhea means absence of the menstrual cycle during the breastfeeding. Menopause, that is the last menstrual cycle, the stoppage of the menstrual cycle, that is the menopause. So the atresia, that is the absence or abnormal menstrual cycle. Menopause means that is the stoppage of the menstrual cycle. Next one, the process in which embryo gets attached to the endometrium of the uterus is known as implantation, pregnancy, placentation, none of this. The process in which embryo gets attached to the endometrium of the uterus, that is called as the implantation. There is a word that is called as the implantation. Option A. Next question. In human females, egg is released from the ovary as primary oocyte, secondary oocyte, ovum, ogonium. Here, the female egg is released in the ovary, from the ovary. So that is in the form of secondary oocyte. Secondary oocyte is released. It completes the second meiotic division and releases the ovum. So when the sperm penetrates the secondary oocyte, so that is in the fallopian tube. So the female egg releases the secondary oocyte. Option B is the correct answer. Next question. The corpus luteum degenerate if fertilization occurs, develops in the pre-ovulatory phase, is maintained by prostaglandins, serve as temporary endocrine gland. Here, degenerates if fertilization occurs. No, if fertilization occurs, it helps for the maintenance of the pregnancy. Develops in pre-ovulatory phase. It is developed after the ovulation, means post-ovulatory phase, not developed in the pre-ovulatory, that is the post. Is maintained by prostaglandins. No, it is not maintained by prostaglandins. Here the correct statement, that is serve as temporary endocrine gland. So that is not remains permanently, that will also degenerate when there is no pregnancy. The corpus luteum degenerate, so that is the temporary endocrine gland that secretes the progesterone. Okay. So option D is the correct one, serves as a temporary endocrine gland. Next question. Surge in the hormone brings about the ovulation. In which hormone that brings about the ovulation? LH, FSH, estrogen and the progesterone. Here, during the 14th day in the 28th day cycle of the menstrual cycle, so the during the 14th day, the LH, that increases, so the that is called as the LH surge. So that leads to the release of the secondary oocyte from the Graafian follicle, that causes the rupture of the Graafian follicle, that is the LH, luteinizing hormone. Option A is the correct one. Next question. One primary oocyte produces dash female gametes. The one primary oocyte that produces the only one female gamete, that is the ovum. That is the only one female gamete, that is the ovum. Option D is the correct answer. Next question. The division in secondary oocyte arrest at dash stage. Yes, here the secondary oocyte that is released from the Graafian follicle, so that undergo the that completes the second meiotic division in the fallopian tube, right? So that secondary oocyte that is arrested in prophase 1 of the meiosis, no. Metaphase of the meiosis 1, no. Prophase of the meiosis 2, here it is arrested at the meiosis 2, not at the meiosis 1. So you can eliminate the option A and B, because meiosis 1 primary oocyte is arrested in the prophase of the meiosis 1, but the secondary oocyte that is at the meiosis 2, that is also metaphase of the meiosis 2. Option D is the correct answer, that is arrested metaphase of the meiosis 2, that is the secondary oocyte. Primary oocyte that is arrested at the prophase of the meiosis 1. Next question. The cleavage of fertilized egg starts in the oviduct, ovary, uterus, vagina. So the fertilization that also takes place at the oviduct, right? So the fertilization that also takes place at the oviduct, and the cleavage also starts at the oviduct, not in the ovary. Uterus, the implantation takes place at the uterus and not in the vagina. The correct option, that is the oviduct, the cleavage of fertilized egg, so that takes place at the oviduct. The correct answer, that is option A, oviduct. Next question. Fertilization involves all of the following except equal contribution of cell organelles from the sperm and egg, joining of the sperm and egg nuclei, sperm binding to the specific sites on the egg surface, metabolic activation of the egg. Here, when the fertilization takes place, the metabolic activation of the egg takes place, sperm binding to the specific sites on the egg surface, yes, that is also correct one. Joining of sperm and egg nuclei, sperm and egg nuclei. So this is the sperm nuclei and this is the egg nuclei. So this fusion will also takes place, but equal contribution of the cell organelles from the sperm and egg, so that is not possible. So here the sperm that contribute the centrioles and all, but the majority of the cell organelles that is from the egg. So option 1 is the correct answer. So where here in the fertilization this is not possible. Next 3 question, you take it as a homework. Try to solve the answer for the next question. Yes, next one. Embryo with 8 to 16 cell blastomere is called. Embryo with 8 to 16 cell blastomere is called morula, blastocyst, inner cell mass, tropoblast. Try to find out the answer for this question. Next one. Fertilization takes place in which part of the oviduct? Note down this question. Try to find out the answer for these questions. Fertilization takes place in which part of the oviduct? Please note down this question. Next question. Select the proper sequence in the development of an embryo. So you have to select the proper sequence here: cleavage, morula, blastocyst, tropoblast and inner cell mass, fertilization, blastocyst, implantation, cleavage, and third option blastocyst, morula, inner cell mass and tropoblast, implantation. Second meiotic division, fertilization, zygote and implantation. choose the correct sequence of the development of the embryo. Okay. Yes, that's it for today. If you have any doubts, feel free to ask. Okay. Yes, thank you, dear students. See you in the next class.